Britney Spears, who has no financial background. The man is not a Wharton MBA grad. How he even got this job? Welcome back to Wine and Chill, your home for all things legal shenanigans. I'm Stephanie, your friendly neighborhood lawyer. Well, as you know, not your lawyer, which brings me quickly to our disclaimer. By watching this video, you understand and acknowledge that this video is for entertainment purposes only, and you agree that you have read the full disclaimer down below in the description box. As you can see from the title and the thumbnail, this is going to be a follow-up to the Britney Spears video I did back in October regarding her conservatorship. A few things have changed since then, and the big thing that has changed is I think more people now have become aware of Britney Spears' conservatorship by watching the documentary that the New York Times put out called Framing Britney Spears. So today our rough agenda is going to be a brief background about conservatorship, just in case you're not familiar. Then we're going to talk about the Framing Britney Spears documentary, specifically from the legal angle, a few of the points that were made that were very interesting and have changed since October, since I did the original video. And then lastly, we are going to talk about the current status of Britney Spears' conservatorship and the next steps. So for those of you that are not familiar, and just as a brief background so that way this video makes sense, I would suggest watching the original video, so I'll link that in the cards up here. I was going to point out in the description box, so that way you can watch that. The original video actually talks about the 2008 court case when John Eardley, who was a lawyer who had alleged that Britney Spears reached out to him back in 2008, he was trying to have her case removed and trying to represent her, which was denied ultimately. So I think that video is still very interesting and will give you a good frame of reference into how 13 years later this is still ongoing. First and foremost, just so we're all on the same page, what is a conservatorship? A conservatorship is created by the appointment of a conservator, also sometimes called a guardian. A conservator is a person or entity appointed by a court to manage the property, daily affairs, and financial affairs of another person, usually someone who is incompetent by means of physical or mental infirmity or age. That's important to note. There are two types of conservatorships. There's a conservatorship of the person and a conservatorship of the estate. So the conservatorship of the person is basically when a conservator takes care for an individual and protects a person when the judge decides that a person can't do it. So the conservator is responsible for making sure the conservatee, so in this case Britney Spears is the conservatee, has proper food, clothing, shelter, healthcare, etc. We're going to get into who her actual conservator of the person is as well in a second. Then there's a conservatorship of the estate, and in that case the conservator, who is the person overseeing this, they are in charge of all financial matters. So any business dealings, anything you own, anything that belongs to your estate, the conservator of the estate will oversee that. It can be the same person for conservatorship of the person and conservatorship of the estate, or it can be different people, it can be multiple people, as we're gonna see with Britney Spears. Now that we're all on the same page, let's get into this documentary. I thought the documentary was heartbreakingly excellent. It was very well done, so much so it was very hard to watch, to be honest. I watch a lot of documentaries. I would say maybe top 3 documentaries that I've watched that it's unpleasant. There's nothing pleasant about watching someone that you admire and someone that we've all grown up with, you know, basically be forced to do things that she may or may not want to do and has little control over her life. There's nothing pleasant about that. There's nothing pleasant about watching someone being stalked and harassed, and just because it is legalized, you can't call it stalking and harassing. It was very uncomfortable to watch an entire 2-minute sequence of paparazzi hounding her down, and to see the lack of agency that she was allowed to have over herself. And if it's uncomfortable to watch, it must be infinite amount more times uncomfortable to bear and to deal with. So what I did find interesting, though, aside from the shocking horribleness of it, to be honest, the shocking, awful events that it portrayed in the documentary, which are true as we saw them, what I found interesting were the legal aspects, specifically because they had a few attorneys present during the documentary. One of which was previously Jamie Spears, so Britney Spears' father, his attorney, Vivian Lee Thoreen, I believe is her full name. So they had her, which was interesting. So one of the things that was stated in the documentary, which shows how problematic the conservatorship case of Britney Spears is, they referenced Britney Spears in court documents as a high-functioning conservatee. Now, reference back to the original definition that I gave you of what a conservatee, what a conservatorship is. It is when someone is there to take care of an incompetent or impaired person. You cannot be a high-functioning conservatee. That is an oxymoron. If you're high functioning, that means you're not incompetent. If you're not incompetent, what do you need a conservatorship for? You don't. So that I found very interesting. They said this on national television, and it's in court documents. That's the thing I really appreciated about the documentary is, first and foremost, if you watch the original video, a lot of the court documents have been sealed in the Britney Spears case because her father, Jamie Spears, asked them to be sealed. And you can take that information how you want. People only hide things they don't want people to see. That's my opinion there. The second thing that I thought was really interesting, when they were referencing court documents, they referred to Britney Spears' conservatorship as a hybrid business model. A conservatorship is not designed to be a business model. It is a legally imposed structure of care to protect someone. That is what it's for. If it is being referenced as a hybrid business model, it has clearly lost its purpose, its intended purpose, which is to take care of someone, and is now functioning as a form of control, from how I see it. So I thought that was very interesting. I thought it was beyond interesting. I thought it was bold and, quite frankly, full of hubris for her father and his attorneys to even put that language in a court document. To be like, yes, this hybrid business model. As in, yes, we have been doing this for 13 years and we're going to continue to do this. It's not supposed to be a hybrid business model. And that level of hubris shows for 13 years, nobody has checked on this, which is what I think the documentary was so well at showing. For 13 years, we, the world, besides the Free Britney movement, which has recently started, have allowed this to happen, have sat back and, as a society, participated in something that is legally allowed. But just because something is legally allowed doesn't make it morally correct. And that, as an attorney, is something I always try to tell people. Just because there are a lot of things in this country that were legally allowed that are highly immoral. And the application of the conservatorship as it currently stands, in my opinion, is immoral. So there was an important clip by Vivian Thurine, which Vivian Thurine at the time, so she is one of the attorneys involved in this case, high profile attorney. At the time of the filming of the documentary, she was not affiliated with Jamie Spears. She had previously been his counsel. After the documentary, it was noted in the documentary that she had then went back to representing Jamie Spears, which I found really interesting as to why she was interviewed and why she would change her mind. To me, it's likely some type of publicity tactic. You know, let me be honest with you, attorneys, we do things for a reason. As an attorney, things are thought out, particularly when it involves your client, particularly when it involves a very high-paying client. So I found that very interesting that she appeared in the documentary. But what I found more interesting is I believe she either has a decade or almost 2 decades of experience. So she's an expert in this field. As she stated, this is a field that she practices in, trust estates, and probate. Excellent at her job, for better or for worse, depending on what side of the table that you're on. Opposing her. She mentioned during her interview portion something along the lines of, once you consent as a conservatee, it's very hard and almost impossible to reverse consent. Because the question was along the lines of, how many times in your career have you seen this be reversed? And she said that she had never seen it be reversed. And this is what they do all day. So for example, I'm a tech attorney. I can tell you the ins and outs of tech, former entertainment attorney, used to work in entertainment. The first time I heard of conservatorship was when I researched this case back in October. So if someone who's telling you like, hey, no, I do this all day, this is what I do, like I'm great at this, I'm telling you it's highly unlikely, I think that's to be taken very seriously because they know what they're doing, they have the background. But also what I thought was interesting, and when you're a journalist, you have more leeway to say things when you're a filmmaker than when you're an attorney. When you're an attorney, it's very much, this is the law, this is my interpretation of the law, and then I'm gonna argue around it, which is what attorneys do. When she talked about consent, it ran into the segment that was playing in the documentary was when it stated that Britney had consented, but that her consent, it seemed to imply that her consent may have been tied to the fact that they had revoked her custody indefinitely to see her children. Mind you, when this happened in 2008, 2007, 2 months prior to her conservatorship being placed upon her, she had given birth. She was likely suffering postpartum depression. She had been hounded for years by the paparazzi, as we all witnessed and we saw in the documentary. She was at a fragile state. And to then imply that she's agreed to the conservatorship because she agreed for whatever reasons, but to imply that there was maybe an element of coercion, I thought was very interesting. And I'm not saying there was coercion. I'm saying from watching it and the way that the documentary was set up, one can assume that and one could see how, oh, the possibility is there. But then begs the question, the legal question in my opinion, which happens to tie back to the original video that we did. If you can consent, so Britney Spears consented originally to this conservatorship. She said, hey, I'm not doing well. I'm very stressed out. I am having a breakdown. I'm asking for help. All these people are hounding me, etc., etc. I just want to see my kids. Signs the paper, consents to conservatorship. How can you then not consent to finding your own counsel? How can you then be barred from consenting to get out of the same thing you consented to? That to me doesn't make sense and is interesting, and always everything goes back to termination. If you enter into a binding contract with somebody, you should be allowed to get out of it. If not, you have indefinitely consented to indentured servitude. With that line of thinking, one would then realize, okay, so maybe this system does need a little fixing. And there's nothing wrong with saying like, hey, maybe this is broken. Maybe the way here, maybe this is not working. Because how can one consent to this and then 13 years later say multiple times, hey, I don't like this anymore. Hey, I don't like this anymore. And you're still stuck with it. While the law is there as guidance, the law is not absolute and the law is imperfect. So I think that really highlighted that to me while I was watching it. So on to the current status of the conservatorship. So there are two types of conservatorship: conservatorship of the person, conservatorship of the estate. So originally, Jamie Spears was the conservator of both. In 2019, he was removed and temporarily replaced by Jody Montgomery. So Jody Montgomery is a personal care manager. This is what she does for a living. She has a company. She takes care of people. Apparently, she also is, from what I read, Britney Spears' choice for conservator of the person. So that's working well. So she's taking care of her day-to-day, making sure she's safe, making sure she, has what she needs, etc. The conservatorship of the estate is currently under Jamie Spears, and they just announced that Bessemer Trust would be the co-conservator. Bessemer Trust is a financial institution. I saw a lot of people questioning, why should a financial institution have control over somebody's life? Well, there's two ways to look at it. First and foremost, why should Jamie Spears, who has no financial background, the man is not a Wharton MBA grad, how he even got this job, conservator of Britney Spears to begin with, I find questionable, to be quite frank. I think that needs to be reviewed. I'm very curious as to how, allegedly, according to the documentary, an absentee father could then step in and be like, hey, yeah, I'm here now. I'm here to just control everything. That, to me, that alone is problematic, first and foremost. Now that Judge Penny of the LA Superior Court, who's overseeing this case now, has decided that Bessemer Trust and Jamie Spears will have conservatorship powers, it hasn't been decided, though, the actual demarcation of power, because of course Jamie Spears is like, wait, you're taking away powers from me. I need to have all of the powers I already had, which would make having Bessemer Trust there a moot point, because the idea is to have Bessemer Trust curtail his power and make sure that he's not running afoul with her money. Because right now, Britney Spears is paying her legal fees, his legal fees, everybody in this case related to all their legal fees with her money. And also paying Jamie Spears a set amount of money out of anything she earns, which is why she rightfully has stated, okay, as long as he's my conservator, I'm not gonna work. Because why should she pay him? What is he doing? So essentially, Britney wants her father completely removed from the conservatorship, which ideally, hopefully that will happen. Right now, remember, he's not conservator of the person anymore. He's only a co-conservator now of the estate. So the reason why, one of the things that I think this documentary from a legal perspective kind of shined a light on, in my opinion, and what I had noticed was, if a conservatorship is so hard to get out of, The next best thing would be to chip away at the powers of the conservator. So by adding Bessemer Trust, slowly chipping away at that, and then eventually Bessemer Trust can hopefully take over of the conservatorship of the estate. So then there would be no need for Jamie Spears. And then eventually, hopefully Britney Spears will no longer have a conservatorship. I think it's important to note though, this has been going on for 13 years. So 13 years, unfortunately, this grown woman who performs, memorizes lyrics, is an excellent interviewer, sings, dances, can do all these things, is a lovely human being, has not been allowed to have control over her own life. So ideally, instead of just arguing to say like, hey, of course, like I don't want this anymore, get rid of this, because that would be a losing argument, she's gonna slowly get all of her rights back, I think is kind of the goal of her and her current attorney, which is Ingram. I think that's kind of the route they're going. And while it may look frustrating, I think that is actually that's the long-term plan and the better route, because what's gonna happen and what keeps happening when she keeps filing, because you have to petition to get the conservatorship removed. Every time she petitions, what is Jamie Spears' number one argument? Well, you're only better because I made you better. Without me, your life is a muck. Well, that isn't true. From the judge's standpoint, it may be a winning argument, because all the judge can see is like, oh, look, your life has been like better now. Like you're performing, you're doing fine. Like, but that's not the whole picture. And I think that's what a lot of it is missing, is the entire picture. What does Britney want? Britney does not want her dad to be her conservator. Okay, how do you go about removing the dad from the conservator? You insert Bessemer Trust. So I think eventually we'll see this current iteration of the conservatorship runs through September of 2021, I think, if I remember correctly. So I think what you'll see between now and September 2021, they have another court hearing slated for next month, is slowly more and more authority given to Bessemer Trust over Jamie Spears. And then hopefully Britney Spears and Bessemer Trust can come into agreement and say, hey, okay, anything less than $100,000, don't bother me. I'm not asking you for permission. It's my money. I'm gonna buy a Birkin, move. You know, and slowly just allow her to do what she wants to do, because currently Jamie Spears has to okay everything, which is completely inappropriate. She's a grown 39-year-old woman who, according to them, is highly functioning. Well, if you're so highly functioning, then you deserve the right to have your own life. And even if you're not highly, that's a whole nother argument. So there's the update on that. We'll continue to watch this closely and see where we land. Of course, Jamie Spears is not going to want to give up his rights, and not rights. You don't have the right to control another person. He's not going to want to give up the powers that the court gave to him over Britney Spears, but I think she is slowly playing chess, not checkers, and I'm really rooting for her and hoping eventually she will have no conservatorship if that's what she wants. So yeah. And because this is such a heavy topic, I think it would be great to end the video if you guys want to leave comments about what we did last time in the video. What is your favorite Britney Spears memory? So what is your favorite 90s memory? Oh, mine is embarrassingly trying to learn the dance for Oops, I Did Again. I can't dance. It's not happening. But I did try, you know. It was stiff. It was stiff, but it was there. So a quick little update. On today's Tuesday, this will go up today. On Thursday, we're gonna do our first live. We're gonna do the Erica Jane and Tom Girardi case. I know you guys voted on that cases, child. I know you guys voted on that a few weeks back in Wine and Lawsuits Wednesdays. So we are gonna do that on a live. I thought it would be fun. And I'm gonna have a special guest who knows all about Real Housewives. And we're gonna do a little back and forth. I think it'll be fun. And then you guys can ask questions and chime in. And then if I figure out the technology, y'all can call in, which I think will be really cool. And question for y'all, since I have you anyway. If you made it to the end of this, I know y'all are watching all the videos and I really appreciate you. How do you feel about Wine and Lawsuits Wednesdays? I know I'm like a smidge behind, but how do you feel about the short format where I give you the 3 lawsuits and you vote on one? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Be honest, it's fine. We've done them for 5 weeks in a row. So I kind of wanted to do a poll whether or not you like it or not. So let me know in the comments whether you're liking the Wine and Lawsuits Wednesdays. Also, give me your favorite Britney memory. I'm asking a lot of you today. Needy. So on that note, I will catch you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.